Vespoli USA, based in New Haven, Connecticut, is a world leader in the manufacture of racing rowing shells. And to celebrate the company's 40th anniversary, we decided to dive into the family tradition of rowing as they pass the torch across generations and tell stories of their boats and the passion for rowing. On this episode, I've got the great pleasure of speaking to Mike Alton and his daughter, Allie. Welcome along, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. So let's kick it off then. First question for you, if I may, Mike. Tell me a little bit about how you first got into rowing and what originally attracted you to the sport.
My local high school had rowing, and I was planning on doing a sport. Wasn't necessarily going to be rowing, but one of my actual coach was one of my teachers, and the first day of class came up to me, "Oh, you're tall and you'd be a good rower. I think you should come out." So that's kind of where it really began, freshman year of high school in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Wow. So you got in, or rather introduced to rowing, basically because you were tall. It could have been such a close thing there, Mike. You could have been a basketball player.
Exactly.
What about yourself, Allie? Tell me a little bit about what first attracted you to the sport of rowing.
What first attracted me was I grew up when I was little, just in the boat, just watching rowing. And then as I grew up, he didn't push me into rowing, and he decided to put me in a single and put me in this little mini rowing camp of introducing a novice introductory camp to learn to row. And as soon as I did, I was absolutely hooked. It was just a natural thing for me, and I loved being able to just have that experience with people in the boat.
It's amazing. So it was love at first sight. That's incredible. So usually what happens is when we want to steer our kids into a particular sport or activity, they do the exact opposite, Mike. How on earth have you managed it? And what was different this time?
I don't know. I was kind of lucky. Just, again, her just being around me from coaching. She would ride in a coaching launch at a very young age. And I think she was just somewhat interested, and I have a passion for the sport. And I think that somehow rubbed off enough. And then when it was time to get her to try the boat, it was just kind of on a whim. And let's go out down here on a Saturday and give it a try. So she took to it. And I think she likes being around the water and on the water and so on and so forth. So that's how it happened.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about what you do. You mentioned coaching there. Is that what you're involved with now, Mike? And what does that look like for you?
So I'm a teacher and a coach at the Episcopal School in Jacksonville, Florida. I've been for about 9 years now. And prior to that, I coached on the collegiate level at several places: Vassar College, Hobart William Smith, Drexel University, to name a few of the places. And moved down here to Florida, just warmer climate and weather. And when both my daughters were growing up, I realized coaching on the college level was going to be missing out on some of their events. So I had a connection down here and came down and started teaching and coaching at the high school. And then they were young. My oldest daughter was in 6th grade, and our school starts at 6th grade. It's a small private school. And Allie is 2 years younger than that. And once she got into school and at Episcopal, so I get to share their events. My daughters were involved in cross country, and Allie also swims. So I got to be able to watch them and coach them and see them as they're growing up. So it's been very special for me to both coach her and be able to be there and see her all the time.
That's amazing. But Allie, what's it like for you having your dad as a coach and as a dad and as a teacher?
It's honestly great. He's not my teacher a whole lot, but to have him as a coach is really, I think, a special experience, especially because, they're very close to you and they know you the best because they're your parent. And so I think he absolutely knows what I can and can't do, even if I don't. So that's really helpful to me. And then if it's really easy to communicate with him, it makes that part of the rowing experience much easier.
Awesome. Does he give you an easy ride?
He does not, no.
I didn't think he would somehow. A question for you again, Allie, if I may. Tell me about the benefits of rowing. In particular, we talk about character building, time management, physical and emotional wellness, being out on the water. What are some of the benefits you've experienced with rowing?
I think one of the benefits, or some of the benefits I've experienced with rowing is when I noticed that when I'm rowing versus like if I'm taking a day off, that I have, when I'm rowing, I have that I'm just a much happier person. And I think my parents could attest to this of like, if I'm not in a boat or doing something active, I'm a very different person. So I know emotionally it makes me a much happier person. And it's just a natural part of who I am. I definitely feel physically, I feel the best. Like especially when I go out and I'm like, it may be tough on my body during sometimes, but I feel super strong and very happy with how I've done. And then being out on the water, like it's that being out in nature and seeing the beautiful sunrises and sunsets, and then you're out with your friends. And it's creating a whole new experience and community for me as well.
It's something I hear a lot about, that community and some of the positive attributes and effects of rowing. Question for you then, Mike, same thing. What have been the benefits of rowing for you?
Yeah, the benefits both physically and emotionally, and from early on, just meeting friends and friend group and teammates. And when you go to college, having a built-in group of people, the same likes and values and work ethic. So that's one huge thing I got out of rowing. And now as coaching, I have a passion for the sport, and it's one of the best jobs in the world to be able to be outside on the river day in and day out, and that part of nature and being outside versus people that have to work inside quite a bit, especially, in this time of the pandemic, we were able to do a lot of rowing and be outside. So the benefits of coaching and being involved with rowing are huge. I think being outside in nature and the exercise value and being healthy, being older and still being in good shape is a huge benefit.
It certainly is. You put me to shame, I've got to be honest. So there's some very early starts, though. You do get the payoff of being at one with nature, and it's quite meditative, I suppose, out there in nature. But what about the early starts, Allie? Talk to me about how early you have to get up.
I will admit there have been a lot of early starts. So because of that, I've gotten quite used to it. So to me, like waking up if I ever a race at like 8 a.m, say we're down in Orlando, or is there a race at 8 a.m, I'm waking up really early, maybe probably around 4 to get down there by 6. I feel like the early morning practices get me even more used to the race atmosphere. And I think it just, gets me even more ready for the race experience.
Brilliant. A question for you then, Mike. What has been your single greatest moment in the sport to date?
Wow, my single greatest moment. That's a tough one. I might have two.
Go on, let's be greedy. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary. Let's do it.
Yes, I think racing at the Henley Royal Regatta in England was probably right up there as my top moments. The other moment, I would say, watching both my daughters place in a race here in Florida in the state championships. They were both in the same boat, and they came from behind and sprinted into the medal position. So that would be my other, if one is a father and one as an athlete, those would be the two I'd have to narrow down.
They're certainly impressive, that's for sure. And obviously, as a Brit, I know Henley rather well. It's always very busy traffic-wise around regatta season. Tell me then, Allie, what's been your single greatest moment in sport to date?
I think one of the single greatest moments I've had was I think it would be the 2021 Southeast Regional Championship. It was the final. It was the last day. I was going to head home right after. I had been staying in front for the very end. And though it sounds rather odd, but when I see people coming up on me and I know I can push a little bit more harder and go even more fast, that's like I love that so much. That's my favorite part of the race. So knowing that, like, did that very end of that race probably, and like, but still coming up on top made me super happy.
So knowing you had more in the tank to give, even though your competitors were approaching you, sort of thing. That's awesome. Last question for you both then. So we have put together this topic of passing of the torch, the generations of rowing, if you like. Do you feel like you've got an established family tradition in rowing? And why do you think that happened? And is it something that you'd like to continue?
It is something we'd like to continue, the family tradition of rowing. And I think it just came about through the love of the sport of rowing. And I think I can't wait to see my daughter have children and see where that would go, and then get into the sport, I would think it would most likely happen. So, yeah.
And Allie, I know it's a little bit far ahead to be thinking about it, but if in the future you've got children, are you going to be encouraging them to jump in the boat and get rowing?
I think I definitely would show them the sport and try and like introduce it to them. And then I think it would definitely do something similar to what my dad did, of like slightly introduce it and then see where it goes. And hopefully it'll take them even farther.
That's amazing. Celebrating the 40th anniversary of Vespoli. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Allie. Thanks for your time today. And thanks for sharing your experience of passing that torch, pass through the generations of rowing. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. To find out more information, don't forget to check out the website, vespoli.com.